So I'm going to pause. I'm going to go through these, but I'm also going to pause a little bit so that I want to be able to make these so that you can see what these movements are if you want to do a search. So we'll start with Cellercise. And remember, there's nothing crazy about Cellercise. Cellercise built this physique. It's building it for people all over the country. Hang in there. It helps people feel more energized, healthier, perform better activities. It's been, again, called the closest thing to the fountain of youth yet devised by man. But we don't do traditional exercise. You can, but you don't have to. Cellercise, again, is not weight lifting, it's weight bearing. We don't just put weight on one muscle, we put weight on every muscle through the G forces that are created through the movement up and down. So, first movement, let's talk about some warm-ups. One of the most important physical movements that we can do on the Cellerciser for any age is simply get on the Cellerciser and gently move up and down. As we're gently moving up and down, lift the heels up a little bit because it pumps the calf muscle. As we pump the calf muscle, we create pressure in the lower extremities that help feed that circulation back up toward the heart, helping reduce edema, swelling, even varicose veins. So this helps work the weakest area of circulation and helps to strengthen that area. But that's also the warm-up for the whole body. It's helping to backflush valves. It's helping to open up capillaries. It's increasing oxygen blood flow to the brain. It's just a gentle wake-up call. The thyroid, the adrenals, the endocrine system, everything is doing this very gently. It's a gentle massage. It helps to get rid of stress or tension. And it is, again, it's all weight-bearing. So if a person did nothing more than that, I believe they're doing the most important thing they can do every day before they go to school, before they go to work, or before they start their day-to-day activities. Okay. Oh, and the baby bounce, or health. I would call it a baby bounce because anyone in the world, when a baby first stands up in the crib, they have a tendency to hold onto the bar and they bounce. And they stay flat-footed and they bounce like this. And that's another way of doing it. By keeping my feet flat and bouncing up and down, I'm bending slightly at the knees. That's working my thighs and my knees. And it's still warming up and strengthening the body. It's not doing as much with the calf muscle. It's not pumping as much in the lower extremities. But it's still very beneficial when you may have a weak ankle or you may not feel comfortable lifting the heels up and down initially. So that's the baby bounce or the health bounce. And it's the warm-up or the precursor to virtually every other movement that we do. Okay, the second movement for the warm-up is what I call the hip rock. And as we spread our feet apart a little bit, we bend at the knee, we rock left to right, pushing down into the mat with our heel. As we're pushing down into the mat, we're taking our hips and we're gently dropping them into the mat. There's still resistance there though, so it's strengthening the hip muscles. If you were to take your fingers and put them right directly underneath the hip, you're going to see how much that's working. A lot. And you're working the hips and the thighs and the knees all at the same time. So a very gentle movement. Now, if you take that movement to the next level, it becomes more of a stretch, and we're going to go through some stretch movements in a moment too. But you just lift your shoulders up and down. As you're lifting the shoulders up and down, you're lifting this right knee up, your right shoulder comes up, and that helps to create a stretch to open up the vertebral joints in the back, the lower back. The whole time we're moving up and down, we're helping to increase circulation because we're moving fluid up through the tissue spaces of the body. So as we're rocking side to side, just like this, you hold onto the bar and do the same thing. And as we're doing this, we're also pumping the lymph system through one-way valves. So really healthy movement to help warm up the body. Next, what falls in that same category is the twist. So to do the twist, we lift our heels up and down and simply gently do the twist. Now as we're gently twisting, we're also moving fluid up and down. Now we're helping to feed circulation between the vertebral joints to the disc. And that's imbibing the disc with more synovial fluid. As we are loosening up the muscles, because this is like a gentle stretch, and a massage, and moving fluid up, we're helping to loosen up, again, those vertebral joints and help to increase space between the vertebral joints to the disc. That gentle twisting motion is probably the second most important physical activity I teach on the Cellerciser. Because as we're gently twisting, we're not just loosening up the lower back. We're also taking the colon, the intestines, the liver, the kidney, the spleen, the gallbladder, the pancreas, the adrenals, all those internal organs every day, up and down and side to side. We're massaging them. I tell people it's like putting the colon and the intestines through a little washing machine. So this twist is one way of helping to loosen up, improve circulation, get rid of blockages, and help improve the back. Now, if you're doing it like this, that's great. If you want to focus more on the upper back, you just lift your arms up and down and gently twist. Now you're working more in the scapula area, the shoulder blades, and the upper back at the same time. And it's a little different, but very, very effective. Okay, the other part of that twist, which is very, very helpful for people that have sciatic issues, is to open up that hip joint socket area where the nerve wraps around. And it helps to increase more flexibility into the hip joint area as well. So the rocking side to side is good, the twisting is good, but now we keep our hips straight ahead. We lift the heels up and down, and we twist right there in the hip socket area. So our waist is straight ahead now. But as we're gently moving up and down and gently twisting, we're helping to open up that whole hip area. I don't know of anything else that's as effective. Okay, let's talk about aerobic and weight loss. We can start off with very simple aerobics, such as standing on the Cellerciser, keeping our back straight, our feet flat, we bend at the knees slightly, and we push down into the mat. We're pushing down, we have resistance. As we're pushing down into the mat, we're working the thighs and the knees. Our feet are pretty much flat-footed. They're on the mat the whole time. We're pushing down. As we keep, again, the back straight, we keep all the weight right over the thigh. That's what's doing all the work. That's what needs all the fuel. And those muscles are big, so they need a lot of fuel. You will feel it very quickly. So as you create this burn, it's eating up the glucose and the sugars in the bloodstream. And if you do repetitions of it, we stop, we gently lift the heels up and down, we increase oxygen, blood flow back to the thighs, priming them, then you do it again. Well, pretty soon, you've eaten up the glucose and the sugars, but these muscles still need fuel. It starts to go after the fat, the white adipose tissue. And you can do that watching a television show. It's very effective. It builds and strengthens the whole front part of the knee at the same time. So, just like that. All right, the jog. The jog's a great aerobic activity. One of the advantages of the Cellerciser is when you're jogging, you're helping to reduce up to 7/8 of the ballistic impact or jar to the skeletal system. Cumulatively, that jarring impact can be and take far more out of the body than it's ever going to give you in return. So your joints, the vertebral joints, the abdominal rings in men, the breasts in women, when you're hitting a hard surface, again, cumulatively, it can be very damaging. But if you want to do that and you like to go out and you like to run, well then I recommend Cellercise first to get the tissue warmed up, get the circulation going. Go out and have your activity, jogging, whatever it is. And when we're done, get back on the Cellerciser to help restore homeostasis, balance, or circulation to the bones and the joints that were absorbing all that jarring. And so this just, you can start off just like this, kind of pump your arms and your legs. As you get stronger, you can lift the legs a little bit more. Now when you're doing it like this, you're really working the core too. And that's very effective. To take it to another level, you're jogging, you're watching your show, you tilt backwards a little bit. The moment I tilt backwards, I just created leverage right there. And that's pretty intense. And that's going to work the core more while it's working the lower back. You're getting more stretch and you're getting a great aerobic activity all at the same time. Okay, and then there's the run. And of course, when you get good or you want to see how many counts you can do within a minute, which is what I often like to do, I will run on it. And every time this leg comes down twice, I count as 1. So it's 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you just count it. So notice every time this leg, the right leg comes down, I count as 1. And that's an aerobic activity. And then, next, we have the Jamba run. I showed you the Jamba walk. The Jamba run is simply more intense. It's by putting our feet shoulder distance. We bend at the knee slightly, keeping our back straight. Again, that's key. It's a tendency to lean forward. Football players do that when they run on the ground too, real fast. But when you lean forward, you can tell when you grab the thigh and hold it and lean forward, it gets soft. You just transfer the weight from the thigh to your back. Your back's not doing any aerobic activity. It's not going to lose weight or help you lose weight or get a good aerobic activity. It's just there. It's, I guess, an isometric to some degree, but a very small degree. When you bend the knee, keeping your back straight, feet flat, and you run as fast as you can without lifting your feet up off the mat, you're not going to last very long. 20 seconds, most people will feel the burn. I tell people we develop a love-hate relationship with it. We love it because it's very effective and it works. We hate it because it's intense. A very prominent doctor, and you'd all know his name if I mentioned him, actually took one look at that movement and said, David, that's so intense it'll grow new capillaries. And we've actually had women who have written us how they've gotten rid of their cellulite in as little as 2 and 3 weeks. And they were doing it a lot, but it's very effective. And again, back straight, feet flat. You just lift your feet up just a little bit. And this is the jump or run. Having a balance bar helps dramatically because you're able to keep your weight back without worrying about going backwards. So for me, for anybody, it's more effective having something to hold on to when you do the Jamba run. Power breathing. Power breathing. Let's talk about power breathing. This is a technique I designed many years ago for myself. I didn't realize the impact it would have on so many other people. People with weaker lungs, people who were dealing with asthma. Most of us only use the first 2/3 of our lung. We don't generally get enough oxygen to the other 1/3. So this movement helps to open up the bronchial tubes in the lungs. And when I first began, the bronchial tubes in the lungs sounded wheezy. You can't fake that. If they're kind of closed up or you've got a lot of mucus or they're not very strong, they can sound wheezy. So when we start off with this, we start off very easy. You may not do more than 6 breaths the first time you do it. And if you do too much, you will know it the next day because the lungs may feel like they're sensitive. You gave them a workout. This is not being done or taught in most modalities today. In most modalities, if you want to build strong lungs, go out and run long distance, go out and do swimming. Go out and you're working, breathing hard. Well, this is a way to literally target and strengthen the lungs without having to go out and doing a lot of long distance running or swimming. So it's done by putting the hands kind of in front of my face. I bend at the knee a little bit. I'm going to stand up, breathe in through the mouth. My arms go up over my head. I'm going to come down, breathe out through the mouth, and my arms come back down. As I do that, I'm pumping the lymph system all throughout the chest cavity area as well. This is good for men and women. And I'm helping to increase oxygen and oxygen flow within the bloodstream, as I'm also targeting the lungs. So it's in the top 5 most important movements I believe we can do on the Cellerciser. So bending in the knee sounds like this. It goes. Oh, and for those of you who like to sing or who are radio announcers and your voice is very important to you, I want you to listen to the difference in my voice when I do this, because if I'm going to be on the radio, if I'm going to sing, I'll do this first. If I really want to create and strengthen and open up diaphragmatic breathing, the other 1/3 of the support in the lungs in the lower area, but it also helps to open up the larynx. And show me another exercise that does that. I don't know of any, but this is done like this. When I'm done, you can hear the difference in the voice. I'm talking just like I was before. But the difference is everything's more open now and there's more oxygen. So that's a good one to do before you're going to do an aerobic activity, because now you've increased the oxygen in your body as well. All right, power beating. Okay, muscle building, calisthenics, and muscle toning. I'm going to say that again. Muscle building, calisthenic, muscle toning. We're going to start off with what works the entire body from the inside out. Now remember, Cellercise is weight bearing, not weightlifting. So we're not just doing the vanity muscles. We're working on the fascia, the connective tissues on the inside of the body that holds our organs and our bones, our joints. The skeletal system can't support itself. It is supported by the muscles and the ligaments and the tendons and the fascia. And I don't know of any exercises that really target the fascia to help create the kind of strength from the inside out. Now, as we become more or less active, we're not challenging the fascia as much. Internal organs that used to sit up here now sit down here. It's not as much related to age as it is to weaknesses in the body. We stop putting weight on a muscle, it's going to sag. We stop putting weight on the internal organs and the connective tissues, they're going to get weaker also. One of the reasons boxers do a lot of jump roping is so when they get hit in the head, they don't want the brain crashing against the skull, causing a knockout. So the movement up and down is helping to strengthen those connective tissues. So first thing, tense the body. Tense all these muscles. Tense everything. And then while you're tensed, put more weight on the body. Bounce up and down. Now you're working the outside as an isometric. You're working the inside as an isotonic. Weight bearing to build up stronger bladder control, sphincter muscles, and other areas of the body. So we tighten and then we bounce. You don't have to jump high. You don't need to float. You just need to create weight. And this is doing it very effectively and very quickly. If you have a unit that's sluggish, you're not going to be able to bounce up and down as many times per minute. But that's working from the inside out. Okay. Second, the natural facelift. I've had people ask me this a lot. This does work. Because I can tell when I don't do it. You got muscles in the face, and it's covered by skin and collagen. Those are protein fibers. How do you get a skin cell to do a push-up? You have to put it under weight. How do you do that? Well, use Cellercise. One of the techniques is to smile with the cheeks, so you have the muscles lift, and you tighten the muscles. Now, as you move up and down, the skin and the collagen can form around those muscles. And also help you get rid of, I notice in the mornings when I get on the Cellerciser, any puffiness around the eyes starts to go away within, just now it's just within a few minutes of Cellercising. It used to take a little longer, but that's moving fluid. So you're also helping to get the fluid moving through the body, through the pumping action created on the Cellerciser. So that's done by just doing a little, I call it a fish face. Don't wrinkle the lips. If you wrinkle the lips, you have strong wrinkles. You don't want strong wrinkles. So it's more of a smiling with the cheek muscles, kind of puckering a little. And then when you're doing your exercise routines, for example, if you're tilting backwards and doing your jog, you're putting weight on these muscles through the bouncing up and down. And I'll do the, just like this. It looks a little weird, but you can feel it. And it starts to tighten and tone that area. So that's the natural facelift. And I had a lady call me up once. She said, David, I saved $7,000 on a facelift. And I thought, there you go. So, okay, chest, shoulders, and arms. Point to make is chest, shoulders, and arms. Point to make is that even though we're targeting those areas of the body, unlike typical exercises that isolate muscle groups, with Cellercise, the entire body collectively is still working as a whole, not just as parts. That's what makes it really exciting. So if we're working on the chest, we lift our elbows up, put our hands together. We're going to push in. If you do that, if you have somebody else feel your chest, it tightens. Now we're going to push in. You can do that to the count of 10. And then we're going to pull out. When we pull out, we want to arch our back a little bit. So we help strengthen our posture. And we're working the back of our shoulders and our arms as well. So to start with pushing in, elbows out, and you're bouncing up and down. And that's, you can do that for about, I can hear my voice changing just by doing this. That's interesting. Okay, so now you're bouncing up and down. Do that to the count of 10, 15, 20, and then pull apart and do the same thing. Bouncing up and down. And then you go back and forth. And that will help build this whole area of the body. Now, if you're well endowed, women, I encourage you to wear some kind of a sports bra to help support those breasts, because there are protein fibers that run through the breast. And we don't want them bouncing up and down too much or too hard, because you can break those protein fibers. And then nothing short of surgery is really going to help you. And we know that because when Dr. Kenneth Cooper exposed the idea of aerobics and everybody was going out and running on a hard surface, it was really taking its toll on women. And that's what helped to create that whole sports bra movement or idea, is because it gave better support. Well, one of the advantages of Cellercise is as you have that support and you're moving up and down, you're putting weight on those protein fibers so that it can actually help lift, tone, and strengthen the breasts as well.
What about the neck?
The neck, we're coming to that. I'm glad you said that, because I put that in here. It's going to be in our flexibility movements. So we're going to come to the neck in our flexibility movements. Thank you, because that's an important one. Okay. Back of the arms, trapezius, shoulders. Okay, let's talk about the back of the arms and trapezius. A lot of women want to work back here, men too. And how do you do that? Well, there's a couple ways of doing it. Give me a moment. All right. Usually, okay, we're going to talk about the back of the arms and the shoulders as well. And it's really going to work on the shoulders to help increase flexibility in the shoulder, because the shoulders are going to be stretched and then they're going to be being massaged at the same time. Really exciting. But it also helps to build up the back of the arms. And that's, if you're lazy like I am, this is a simple way to do it. You just put your arm, or your hand, cup it in like this, push down and pull up. And get some movement, because you want to lift as comfortably as you can. Lift your arm up and then put it back down again, because that's going to be working the shoulder as well. So as you're lifting up, you're pushing down at the same time. Lifting up with this hand, pushing down with this hand. As you do it, you're working the back of the arm. And then you can do the same thing on the other way. Now, if you have trouble with that, you can take a cord from your robe or belt, or if you happen to have one of these little guys, and you just throw it over your back, you can grab it this way, hold it, and pull down, and you can work it like that also. So now you're working the back of the arm. You're not working both arms the same way exactly, but you're working it this way, and then you do the same thing on the other side. We're going to have some of those soon so that we can make those available to you. Okay, that's the back of the arms, and as well as the shoulders. Okay, so the core, the stomach. I tell you, I should have Brooklyn up here doing this because she's got a great way of doing it. But if you really want to target those stomach muscles and make them stronger, if you're jogging on the Cellerciser but you tilt, you just create a lot more leverage right here, these muscles. You cannot do that on a treadmill. You can't do that on the ground because you would hurt the back. But the Cellerciser absorbs up to 7/8 of that ballistic impact or jar to that, so it's less jarring than walking or running on the ground. So by tilting backwards a little bit, I can just tilt backwards, and all these muscles are holding me up from falling over. And if I lift my head up and tilt it backwards a little bit, now I'm working underneath the chin and I'm working the neck. Because every time I come down, all those muscles are fighting to stay up. And that becomes a great way of tightening and toning and strengthening and building the core from underneath the chin all the way down. That's what I do. I've been doing that for over 30 years now. So, and I don't do sit-ups. Nothing wrong with that. If you want to isolate a muscle, you can. I don't need to. This works. So, that's one. Now, if you want to create more leverage to the muscles here, you can hold onto that balance bar, and I want to keep you out of the way. As you tilt backwards, instead of just jogging like this, kick your legs out like this. As I lift my head up, I'm working underneath the chin again, and every time I come down, I'm putting a lot more weight there than if I just did that there. See, I'm taking my own body weight. I'm not just lifting it away from gravity. I'm increasing the weight of gravity. What other exercise does that? And remember, I'm not just focusing here. As I'm working, people say, how come Cellercise works so quickly, or how come it can't? It's because we're working 75 trillion cells all at the same time. We're focusing on these muscles, but how many other muscles are also working? All of them. I don't know of a better form or foundation for exercise than Cellercise. So this one here tightens and tones this whole area of the body. And again, that's a lot of leverage. And you can feel it. The moment you tilt backwards, you can feel these muscles. When they come up and down, that's a lot of weight on those muscles. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the obliques. Love handles. People call them love handles, but I've never loved them, and I know most people haven't loved them either. So this one here targets these muscles. This here helps to burn the weight off the muscles. But this one here tightens and tones these muscles. So simply by doing this movement here, that helps some too. But if we want to create more emphasis in our waist, in this area, in our hips, we simply kick out side to side. And as I come down, I'm leveraging the body weight again, right there. That's a lot of weight. And it's not just here, it's on the whole body. So remember, you don't have to work hard on the Cellerciser. You play on it. It's automatically working hard on you. And if you want to do it differently, of course you can, but this is just me. This is what I've done. It's what my kids have done, and it's worked. Okay, now for the lower back and the buttocks. We want to lift, tighten, and tone the back side. In typical calisthenics, they will do things on the ground where they kind of lift the leg up behind themselves, and that's fine. But it's limited just to that muscle. But when we Cellercise, we can kick our legs out behind us. And as we come down with one leg up, that's a lot more weight than if we just lift the leg up. So I do it simply by leaning forward, and as I lean forward and kick behind me, I'm putting all this weight right there. And that will strengthen the back and the buttocks. Now start off easy. That one here, for most people, the lower back is weak. In fact, we're told up to 80% of Americans are going to suffer lower back pain. If that's true, that's a lot of back pain. And I did used to have back pain, but I don't have back pain now, and I'm very, very, very grateful for that. So, because I know what it was like rolling out of bed sideways because I couldn't sit up. Now I'm getting younger, and even though I'm technically older. So this one here, again, start off, just lean forward. Just lean forward. The moment you lean forward, those muscles are having to hold you up every time you come down. So that's still putting weight on the back. It's wonderful. And as you do this, these muscles are automatically getting stronger. In fact, if you were to stand up and feel those muscles with your thumbs, kind of dig into that muscle, and then lean forward a little bit and dig in. And now imagine you're coming down with more weight on those muscles just by doing this. That's going to help strengthen the back. As you get stronger, then yes, you can create more leverage by leaning forward a little bit more. Having a balance bar to hold on to makes it easier. And as I come down, again, that's more weight. So that's the lower back and the buttocks, and the shoulders are involved in that too. Okay. The knees and the legs. Okay. We talked a little bit about the Jamba run. That's great as an aerobic. But the Jamba run is also, and the Jamba walk, is also focused on strengthening the supporting muscles and ligaments and tendons in the knee. Ligaments and tendons take longer than muscles to build up. So it's important we give it some time. But if you have weak knees, wearing a knee brace, going to Walmart or some store where you can get one of those knee socks and putting it around the knee to help support the knee while you build up the knee, nothing wrong with that. You can do that same thing on the ankles. Have that little extra support while we're building up the muscles and the ligaments and the tendons. And so bending in the knee, doing the Jamba walk or the Jamba run is going to help strengthen the thighs and the knees. Now, to increase even more strength in the knee, we can do the technique, and many of you have seen me do it, where we can put our hands on a counter, a desk. In this case, I'm just going to put it on the couch. We can bend the knee, bounce up, come down. Bounce up, come down. This movement right here is strengthening the knees even more. While it is also, it's like a squat, but it's also increasing flexibility in the knee. And it's those movements, when I wiped out my knee, it wasn't until I started doing those that I was able to kneel down and be able to look at the bottom shelf at a counter again, under a counter, and get the food that other people couldn't get to. And it's been a blessing, and that can be a blessing for you in the knees too. If you are involved in sports or an athletic, you can actually bend the knee, and you're going to jump straight up, come down, bending down. But you're putting weight on the knee without jarring it. We're eliminating the jar, but we're increasing the weight. So that when we are on a hard surface, we can still jump high, but we're not damaging our knee the way we would be otherwise. So we're bending at the knee. We just jump straight up, come down, and bend at the knee again. And straight up, and come down. Straight up, and come down. And you do a few of those, you're going to start to really build and strengthen those knee areas as well. Okay, ankles and feet. We did a little of this, but for underneath the arches of the foot, people that have flat foot or flat-footed, this one helps to lift the arches, helps strengthen the muscles under the arch and the fascia and connective tissues in that heel joint area. And that's simply done by lifting the heels up and down. Again, as we lift the heels up and down, we're working underneath the arches of the foot. As we get stronger, then we can bounce a little higher if we want and keep our heels up. As we're doing that, we're putting even more weight on it. Don't start off with that one. We want to strengthen and increase the flexibility of the fascia and the tissue underneath the foot and the heel before we put too much weight on it. Rocking side to side, great for the ankles. And then what we call the ski patrol. Hips, thighs, and knees. And that's simply by bouncing side to side as I lift my shoulders up and down and bounce side to side. I do this every day. I'm working the hips, thighs, and the knees. As you get stronger, you can actually hold your feet together and go skiing. It's the same burn feeling you would feel if you were on the slopes. And it helps keep your legs and your thighs in good condition for all kinds of activities. And it's working on the ankle as well. Now, for those who have had an ankle injury, I'll tell you my story. I broke this ankle in two places the week before I was supposed to be at the University of Guam doing a demonstration. And they wanted to put it in a cast. And I said, no, I'm going to be in the University of Guam. I can't have a cast on that. Well, you can't fly with a cast on. I said, okay, what else can I do? Well, we can put a boot on it, but we don't recommend it. They wrapped it, they put a boot on it. And I had the most miserable trip of my life with the foot up and down in that bulkhead. Oh, we got there and I'm bouncing around with a boot on and crutches, demonstrating Cellercise by calling people from the audience. It was well received. But through the whole ordeal, I didn't have my balance bar with me when I traveled. I took my crutch. I had my crutch. And I put it over here, and I used my crutch for balance. I put my foot over the side of the unit and started to move up and down. As I was moving up and down, I was helping to increase circulation, a pumping action up and down. Having a bar to hold on to is much better than a crutch. And as I was moving up and down, I was moving fluid, helping reduce inflammation, help to increase circulation, all weight bearing, helping to promote osteoblastic activity, but without hitting anything. It was G-forces, simply weight on the body. I healed so quickly the doctor became my customer. True story. And it's not just me. There's many people I've worked with, including our good friend Grace, who ran her first Ironman last year and then fell off the cliff and shattered her ankle, and they took plates and pins, and she's been doing the same thing. And she is healing her. According to her doctor, she is healed over a month faster than their most elite athletes. She's 60 years old. Or yeah, that's pretty neat. Okay, so that's a little bit about that. Okay, that's ankles. Let's talk about flexibility. Again, first thing about flexibility, warm up the tissue. And just, we do have athletes that will take these to athletic events, and they'll be over there by their bleachers or the benches bouncing up and down before their activity. You've all seen the strength and balance test. Typical exercise will not give you that. Yoga will not give you that. Martial arts will not give you that. But you'll have a better martial arts experience, a better yoga experience, and a better athletic experience if you Cellercise as part of your whole program, because you're helping to strengthen the body collectively as a whole. So when you do an activity and you're collectively strong as a whole and not as parts, you're going to perform better. And we demonstrate that with the strength and balance test. It's legitimate, it's real. Many of you have tried it yourself on people not Cellercised, and you've experienced it's real. Well, when you strengthen your body collectively as a whole, you're going to become stronger collectively as a whole. When you alter the body, the angle of your body and bounce, you're going to become strong in an altered position. How many people do that? That means if you like to do horseback riding or wrestling or whatever the case may be, if you're involved with the fire and police departments, SWAT teams, military personnel, martial artists, if you're in an altered position, but you're strong because you've exercised in an altered position, you're going to have an advantage over your opponent. And that's one of the big advantages of that as well. So, so we start off with baby bounce, and we warm up the tissue. I think that's important on everything. Then we're going to deal with the neck. So, oh, and biceps. We're going to talk about biceps. That's a good one. I didn't write this one down. This is what I do with the bicep. I'm going to start that over. So we can create this as part of the link. Let's talk about building up biceps and strengthening biceps. I do curls. This is how I do it. I always have movement. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and go up to 20, go up to 25. You're going to start to feel you control the weight, so you're not tearing down to build up. You can do this every day. But you control the weight on that arm by how much you're pushing and pulling up. So you're not going to overdo it. And then you switch and you do the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down, 2, 3, 4. And when you're done, it pumps and strengthens your arms. It strengthens your forearms. It strengthens your wrists. You're doing that with all, but it's not tearing down. And you're applying weight collectively again to the rest of the body. Okay, so the neck. Let's talk about the neck. We're dealing with some flexibility movements. Putting the thumbs in front, fingers behind the neck, massaging little circles, pushing into the vertebral joints and up as we gently bounce up and down. Now see, the movement up and down, which makes this different, is we're moving fluid up and down through the body. And we're pushing that fluid between the vertebral joints to the disc. And as we're doing that, we're helping to create space and get rid of the stress and tension in the neck. As we get better at that, we can start doing stretches. But I wouldn't start off with these, because we don't know how much space you have in the vertebral joints in your neck. And if you irritate a nerve, it can take some time to recover. The good news, though, is Cellercise is not hard. It's not tearing down. It's forgiving. It just may expose a weakness or an area in the body that was weak, and you just didn't know it. So then we have to go back to the little circle movements and just tilt a little bit one way, tilt a little bit the other way, until we can get rid of that stress or tension. And then as we increase flexibility of the neck, we can take our hand, put it over our head. By the way, all these movements are in the Mr. Rebounder app now. So you'll be able to do these and add these into routines. But if you put your hand over your head, just gently tilt it to the side and gently bounce up and down. The movement up and down takes that tension and it further expands and contracts or flexes, massages that tension that's just moving fluid through the area. And then you take your head, tilt it, or turn it to the side, and gently pull down. And you're working the back of the neck as well. And then the front, just drop the head down. And I usually open my mouth. and tilt your head back. I open my mouth so I don't overstretch the skin. You don't need to, especially as we're getting older. We're losing some elasticity. So then take your hand, put it over your head again, tilt the other direction, and gently bounce. If you want to know how much of a massage and how intense this is, if you take your fingers, put them on your deltoids, grab those shoulders, and then bounce up and down, you feel a lot of movement in those deltoids. Well, you're getting that same movement in all that tissue, or that same resistance, expanding and contraction. And then do the same thing this way. And then you can end up with a gentle roll while you're gently bouncing. And that's going to help over time. Remember, it can take time. And it's like cleaning up a bedroom. Sometimes you're pulling all the stuff out, it looks worse before it looks better. So go easy and allow it to build up. Okay. Shoulders. Shoulders are a real good one. All right. We've helped a lot of people that have had shoulder surgeries. A lot of people avoid shoulder surgeries by opening up the rotator cuff, increasing flexibility and circulation in the shoulders. It's done by putting the elbows straight ahead, bouncing up and down. Lift the elbows up over your head, bounce up and down. Out to the side, bounce up and down. And then you just do the same thing. And over time, that starts to open up and increase flexibility in shoulders. If you have a shoulder that's resistant or that's just going through physical therapy, check with your physical therapist. But a technique that I teach physical therapists is you take your hand, support the shoulder, and gently bounce up and down. Now, as you support it, as you can, just lift it up to where you feel comfortable and bounce up and down. And over the time, little by little, you'll lift it a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And you don't have to work hard on it, play on it. Remember, it's working hard on you. It's automatic. It's not like the no pain, no gain thing. I think that's old school. But, okay, then, and again, all these are in the Mr. Rebounder app. You can, and then some, you can do movements like this, which help to open up the whole chest cavity area as well as the shoulders. So your palms are down, up, down, up. So you're getting this rotation in the shoulders as you're also moving them down. And that's just some of the routines, but they're very helpful for the shoulders. Okay. Increasing flexibility of the arms and the chest. If you take your hands and you grab behind your arm here, do the same thing on the other side. Hold on to that area and gently bounce up and down. Now you're helping to increase the flexibility of the shoulder as well. And you can do this for a few moments while you're watching a show. And then switch and put the other hand in front. And often you'll feel one shoulder is a little tighter than the other shoulder. That's fine. That's the area you want to work on more. And for the chest, you've all seen that movement. Just grab your hands, reach back while you're gently bouncing up and down. I know this is a little longer than normal, but I want to go through all these movements so we can make them available to all of you. If you ever want to know, what do I do for this area, for that area, and you'll be able to do a search on it. For some reason, our Facebook account was compromised today, and we lost a whole year's worth of Facebook video on our program and all of your comments. And I've got a call out. We just found out about that this morning, but it happened yesterday, evidently. We don't know how somebody got in there, what happened, or we put a call out to Facebook to ask them if they can help us find that material. We didn't have a backup of it on Facebook. I didn't even know you could. But we're going to either redo everything, we'll do it over again, or we're going to make it better, or not. But this is going to be something that's going to be special, and we'll edit it so that we can have all these different movements and direction for you when you're searching in the future, or you know somebody else that you think a movement or that might be helpful to them given their particular situation. Okay. Okay, we talked about the back and the twist for increasing flexibility. There's another movement that I also teach on the app. So for the back, to increase flexibility in the back, this gentle movement here, side to side, lifting the shoulders up and down. This gentle twist helps to loosen the back further. And then these movements where we take our elbows, stick it up over our head, lean to the left to open up the vertebral joints in the back. The moment we feel any stress or tension, stop, hold the position, gently bounce. Allow the movement up and down to get rid of the tension. You don't have to overstretch to do that. You'll automatically get more flexible as you do it. And then the same thing on the other side. Just tilt and gently move up and down. And we talked about the gentle twist where the arms come up over our head as well. We can also do, and you've seen me do this, we can use the frame to increase flexibility in the back. And by leaning forward, you hold on to the frame. You can lean backwards to help loosen up the back as well. And then if you tilt slightly to the left leg, bend the knee a little bit, take the right leg and lift the ball of the foot up, and then gently bounce up and down. It looks funny, but again, if you know the dynamics of Cellercise, you know that's going to increase flexibility. And then you do the same thing this side. And again, those movements are in the Mystery Rounder app. Okay, we're almost done. We talked about the hips, and again, people just recap. Hip flexibility, rocking side to side. You help with the hips, doing the twist to help with the hips, and then twisting just in the hip socket area as we're gently bouncing up and down. Helps increase flexibility of the hips and opens up that whole hip area for people that are dealing with issues like sciatica. Okay, about done. Other advantages of the Cellerciser, the immune system. As we're moving up and down, we're creating a pumping action which pumps the lymph system. The immune system is so important. It doesn't have a heart to keep it circulating. It is dependent upon pressure changes. And if we're not getting enough activity in our day-to-day life, we can build up blockages, congestion, literally, within the lymph system itself. We can experience that in our sinuses as well when it gets clogged up. Well, that can be occurring in different areas of our body. As we move up and down, it's like an internal scrub brush. So we're moving up and down, and we're helping to stimulate and improve lymphatic circulation. Like I just said, it's like an internal scrub brush. It back flushes valves. It helps to open up circulation, get rid of trapped blood proteins, and overall help to increase circulation, both in the cardiopulmonary circulatory system as well as in the lymphatic system. Connective tissues, we talked about that. What other exercise out there is going to help strengthen the fascia or the connective tissues in the body as effectively as Cellercise can without tearing them down? I don't know of anything. And again, Cellercise doesn't limit the effectiveness on the entire body. As we move up and down, we're helping to detoxify or work with the entire body as an internal scrub brush, but we're massaging the thyroid, the adrenals, the endocrine system. Everything is gently being massaged. The pineal gland in the brain, everything is gently being stimulated. The entire endocrine system, targeting the smooth muscles. We talked about digestion, elimination, balancing blood sugars, reducing inflammation, increasing overall circulation, blood chemistry, strengthening bones, stimulating the immune system. All part of a 10-minute-a-day program where every cell of our body, every area of our body is flexing over 100 times a minute. That's the advantages of Cellercise.